you didn't go with, well, she used to cheat at Monopoly all the time.
Boy, she was a real pleasure at Yahtzee.
Or stole a candy bar from the grocery store. Oh, no, let's go straight in for Aunt Cheryl's the whore.
Oh.
It's the Scott and Alley Not For Air podcast. The rules are gone. The shirt is untucked. Here's Scott and Alley.
I feel this Scott and Alley Not For Air podcast is going to be loaded with things people are going to take with them.
This first story from both of us, great. The other thing was something I teased last week. Not as funny, but so interesting to me.
Okay.
Okay, so tell everybody what happened last night.
Oh, you want my story?
Yeah.
Oh, I've been harboring this one. I almost didn't want to tell you this one. Let me set it up like this. I'm not a mean person. I'm not mean-spirited. I got a quick wit when it comes to one-line jokes. I mean, I kind of sometimes just go, and I think I had a situation where my mouth got in front of me with a one-liner that was meant totally to be harmless and funny and just sort of, cute. And I don't know if it fell flat or not. Okay. So I'm at a pizza place, and this is what's happened in my house now. Among the four of us that live there, none of us, except for the kids, like the same pizza. The kids only want cheese pizza.
Okay.
6059 wants a meat lover's pizza, and I want like a supreme pizza, which has the meat and some vegetables on it, right?
I want balance in my diet.
So I call up and I
want all four food groups.
Yeah, right. So I call up and I order 3 pizzas, right? Now I go as small as I can, not to break the bank, because the kids aren't going to eat like a whole sheet. So I order 3. So I go in to pick up the pizzas, and man, bless the young lady that cashed me out. She was, and I'm not assuming on this. This is one of these times when you can look at someone and be like, you're very pregnant.
Oh, yeah.
Or at least you're pregnant, if not very pregnant. I know you're having a baby, right?
Yep.
And she was very nice and very kind. And the way this pizza place is set up is you go to the register, and directly next to the register, it's all an open area. That's where they're making the pizzas. So it's kind of a tight area. The ovens are behind them. So I'm picking up the pizzas and I'm getting out of there. And it was really funny. The chef, the pizza guy, he turns to me and he's a really nice guy. He's like, oh man, you guys got a lot of pizza to eat and this and that. And I said the same thing. I said, this is what my house has become. I said, it's become, well, there's a cheese only for the kids. I'm getting the supreme, then there's the meat lovers, she likes that. And I look over and I go, you're pregnant. And I'm like, and it hit me on. Now, mind you, the guy that makes the pizza is rolling on the floor because he totally got the double entendre that was.
Right.
I didn't mean it like to be
Oh,
cruel.
you know what? I thought you meant like you're pregnant so you like to eat.
Oh, no.
I wasn't thinking.
I was making the joke.
Oh my God.
The meat lovers. You get it. You're pregnant, and I said it like that. You get it. And I'm like, oh shit. And I said it, and I'm like, and as I left, I'm like, God, should I drive to the grocery store and get this girl flowers and take them back and apologize and be like, I did not mean that? Because all it was a quick one line. Like, it was boom, boom, boom. Like, the fake frustration of buying 3 pizzas because nobody can agree. And then, he's like, well, I got a supreme, I got a cheese and a meat lovers. You get it. You're pregnant. And I'm like, oh.
I've never been pregnant that I know of. And if I was pregnant, though, I used to always say that I want to be pregnant just so I can wear a bikini and have my belly hang out.
Yes.
So I think that I think, but I don't know, because I know it's a very hormonal time, that I would laugh at everything. I'd make everything very funny. I would like make jokes about myself being as big as a house or whatever. For me, I would absolutely wear a shirt that said I was only supposed to swallow,
Oh, wow. Wow. Okay, I didn't say that.
I think that that's what I would do. But that's just me, and that's my personality. You don't know this person, but I think that the joke was fine.
Okay, because
did she laugh?
Well, not really. The guy was rolling. The pizza chef was rolling. He's like, I got what you meant there.
Oh, and you said she was really pregnant, so her hormones were really all over the place.
She carried it well. I mean, if by chance it gets heard, okay. If by chance, if I offended. My God, that was not my intention. I was just going for a quick one-liner. I in no way meant that to be mean. It was really meant just to be a quick laugh and a silly ha-ha. Because, I do it. I sometimes forget, like when I'm with Allie, you and I can say anything to each other,
Yeah.
and we just crack terrible, not even for the Not for Air podcast, sometimes jokes that we say
Just all the time.
all the time. And that's just what we are. And sometimes I think I just fell into my head moment, and I'm like, well, you get it. You like meat. Clearly you did. I'm like, oh, shit.
I have the same problem too, especially not that I have to act a certain way around my significant other's family, but sometimes you try to tone it down a little bit. And sometimes I just go. And I think I just spoke to a school a couple days ago, and I was talking about this, and I should really practice what I preach about how I will speak one way to Scott. Listeners, took a while, but we when I first moved here, it was like, hey, this is me, and I need to gain your trust. And then later on, now it's balls to the wall.
Yeah, it's all in. Yeah, but the problem was I didn't know these people, and I felt bad about it.
And it's the same with even though I know my significant other's family, I still try to tone it down there.
Yeah,
because I know that they are kind of a certain way. You know what I'm saying? They're a little bit more tame. So I need to read the room.
Well, and I thought I was reading the room because the guy that's making the pizza is like, hey, a lot of pizzas there. Yeah, you got lots to eat. And I'm like, yeah, meat lovers. You like, and we were all, so I don't need to go get flowers and apologize profusely for my actions.
Here's what I think you should do. Next time you order, don't put your name.
That's very funny. I mean, if it was an actual comedian that did it, like if somebody, name a comedian.
Neil Brennan.
If Neil Brennan walked in and did the exact same line, people would lose their mind over.
Oh, I know.
So
I mean, you are a comedian.
I'm not going to judge.
Monday through Friday, 6 to 10.
Real funny guy over here.
Right.
Tell the pregnant lady she likes meat, making the obvious joke.
I think it's hysterical.
Okay,
I love it, and I think most people now, because we see all these jokes on social media, we live our lives a little bit more boisterously. I think it's fine.
Well,
and if not, well,
I apologize if it wasn't fine. If you thought it was funny, I'm glad you did, because that was my only intention. Is how do you make a joke in a pizza place using pizza with a pregnant lady? You whip out the old meat lovers joke. Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of jokes in inappropriate places, so this is a paraphrasing of what happened to my friend the other day. So my friend's husband had an aunt who was dying. And I know, not funny. And so they said, we would like you to come to the hospital to say your goodbyes. And we're going to call her Aunt Cheryl for right now. Okay.
Right.
So my girlfriend says, well, I'm going to go with my husband to support him at the hospital when he goes to visit his dying aunt.
Yeah.
So in transition from them going from their house to the hospital, Aunt Cheryl dies. So they call and they said, well, she's passed. Well, they thought, well, we're pretty close. We'll just go and we'll probably just sit in the waiting room and be with the family, and we'll still go and just support and just be there emotionally for each other. Well, they get there and she says, no waiting room was ever in the equation. They walk right into the room. They're like, oh, no. We're all in here. We're with Aunt Cheryl. Cheryl
who's no longer with us.
No longer with us. Laying there dead as a doornail.
Hard as a carp.
Hard as a carp. And she's like tilted half up. So, because when they're in hospital beds, they're like on that hospital bed that's at a tilt. So she's like kind of tilted up. So she's not laying down, but she's not sitting up. So she's
oh my God.
What is she at, like a 60 degree angle?
Yeah, kind of.
So she's at a 60 degree angle. She says Aunt Cheryl's mouth is agape.
Oh.
So
looking for that last breath.
Lost it. And she's got jaundice, so she's all orange and stuff, and dead. So she's probably like orange and gray. So she's like,
who knew she was going to wear a Halloween costume of Donald Trump to her deathbed?
Right, she's like George. So
George.
Yeah.
God, we're laughing hysterically at a dead person.
That's not even the best part. So they're just there, and they said the conversation was just real. I got to read it to you exactly.
Oh, you haven't.
Yeah, she said the conversation was just real dry, and it's like, okay, what else?
Much like her open mouth.
Yeah.
Now I'm off. Now I'm off and running.
So she goes, well, oh, by the way, she says her husband, who's almost in worse shape as dead Aunt Cheryl is there in a wheelchair holding dead Aunt Cheryl's hand. Okay. So my one girlfriend was like, so here I am. I'm trying to make a lighter environment and I'm trying to lighten it up and hopefully boost people's spirits.
Yeah.
She says, so I kind of joke and say, oh, so tell me what kind of trouble Cheryl got into when she was younger.
Oh.
Yeah, like, okay, I can see that. Like,
well, here's the best part. If that story she didn't want told comes out, she's already in the right position, which looks like this. I told you I had. Just keep going.
So somebody pipes up. Well, she was sleeping with a married man for quite a while. Oh my God. You didn't go with, well, she used to cheat at Monopoly all the time.
Boy, she was a real pleasure at Yahtzee.
Or stole a candy bar from the grocery store. Oh, no, let's go straight in for Aunt Cheryl's the whore.
Oh, God. Aunt Cheryl's the whore. You can't beat that.
No,
There's
you can't.
no way to beat that.
That's the first thing that comes to your mind of the dead lady whose mouth is open at a 60-degree angle.
All orange.
Yeah.
Well, if she was alive, she'd turn as red as a cherry tomato.
Oh, my God.
God,
that
that's
is
terrible.
the greatest story ever.
Tell me this much. Please tell me the husband. Well, maybe he knew. I don't know. But maybe he's there holding his dead wife's hand.
Yeah.
By the way, side question. How long do you keep that embrace going before you got to go?
Oh.
Gotta go.
I know it. I wonder that. I also, and I don't want this to turn into too much of dead people, but I did. Oh my God, you are going to think I'm so weird. I definitely touched my dead grandmother and kissed her cheek, which I never thought I would.
But that's sweet.
Yeah, I didn't think
Well,
I would.
I don't know. Maybe she was salty. Who knows?
She was really cold.
Yeah, I would think so.
Yeah, right. But I didn't think I would be that person because that's always like giving me the willies.
Yeah.
But then for some reason I was in the moment. I'm like,
This is why you gotta watch this podcast.
it's when your lips are quivering. You're like, I'm not sure if I want to go in for this kiss, but I'm gonna go in for this kiss. And I went in for the kiss. Okay.
She really was sleeping with a married man for quite a while. What a thing to be remembered.
You know what? That's what's going to happen. I'm going to be dead, my mouth agape at 60-degree angles. And you know what?
I actually have a picture of that.
The story that Scott is going to tell is, oh, well, Allie crapped on a listener's lawn once. Like these are the things that we're going to be known
totally
for.
Will. She used to have a hard time crapping everywhere.
Oh my
in
gosh.
public.
Well, the problem is I didn't have a hard time crapping everywhere. I literally used to crap everywhere. If I had to go, I had to go.
I wish I had the picture of you. It's on a different computer. There's a picture, and this is years ago, where, do you remember you had this kick where you were eating this thing called fat fudge?
Oh, yeah.
It was a protein fudge, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I just couldn't hold back. I'm like, fat fudge. And Allie's got one of these poses from across the room, and I took a picture. It's somewhere. She's like this. She's like,
wait a second.
Do you have it?
No, but Zach loves taking pictures of me sleeping. So this is what I'm going to look like.
You already look dead.
I know. Wait, no, this one's the night before. This phone is shaking because I'm laughing so much.
My throat hurts. I'm laughing so
Wait, hold on. I got more. But wait, there's more. He loves taking pictures of me sleeping.
Please take and watch this podcast so you can see this.
Oh my gosh. Wait, do I have another one? I thought I did. He has so many on his phone, like more than I care for. Do I have any other ones?
God,
oh my
gosh.
Those
are so great.
I realized that I didn't realize that we send so many pictures back and forth.
Can I also ask you, you look like you're almost sleeping sitting up.
Yeah, I'm propped up. Well, the one I was
lay
propped
down?
up. I do, but I was on the couch and I was watching a show, and so
No, you weren't. You were like, ugh.
Yeah. So I was leaning on my elbow because my elbow was on the armrest, and then I was leaning against my hand. And then the other one, it was pillows. I was propped up on pillows.
Like that, Aunt Cheryl.
Now I'm trying to find more pictures of me sleeping. Oh my gosh. Well, anyway, you get the point. Oh, wait, here's another one. Found one. This one, I kind of look like how Scott does, where, you know how I'm in the
You look like a baby. What? You look like you look like you dressed up as a baby with a newborn cap on.
it was wintertime.
Oh my God.
And I was wearing a cap. Man, my makeup looks so good. Look at my makeup. I sleep like an angel. Come on.
You look like a 6-month-old.
Oh, and I had my hands crossed over me like a dead person.
Oh, I've done that too, where I look like I'm in a sarcophagus, like a sphinx. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
That's why I was saying I looked like Scott Free, because I was all like,
dead looking.
All right, we have to take a quick break.
Yes.
Then I have to tell you, I teased this the last time. It's the Kennedy conspiracy.
Oh God, yes. Okay.
Yeah, so give me 30 seconds and then we'll come right back, okay? The Not for Air podcast is brought to you by Allison Aesthetics. What started out as me wanting juicier, plumper lips, well, then I found out that Allison Aesthetics was so much more. Got this amazing facial. You can see the glow there. And then a little bit of Botox just to get rid of some fine lines and wrinkles and prevent them too. And then I found out they do hair removal. Yes, please. And it didn't even hurt. I swear, it didn't hurt. Make sure you follow Allison Aesthetics online and book with them today.
All right, we're back with the Not for Air podcast. Now, how did you get into this Kennedy thing?
Thank you for asking, because this is not something I would have sought out myself. I got an email. So, I'm on Reddit, and I got this email, and it was suggested Reddit threads. And it was the conspiracy of Rose Kennedy. So I clicked on the email, and because I'm a sucker. So I clicked on the email, and all I saw were people's responses. And they were like, oh my gosh, this story is so messed up. I can't believe the Kennedys did this. Yada, yada, yada. And I was like, what the heck happened with Rose Kennedy? So here is just a quick background that you need to understand, because you probably know JFK or Robert or something like that. So Rose and Joseph are the mom and dad. They were the originals. They were the originals.
In the Kennedy story, more or less.
Yes. They had children. I think there was 8 or 9 of them. JFK is one of them. Mm-hmm. Robert's another one. Rose was older than them. So she was born in I think it was 1912 or 1914 or something like that. So she was born before JFK.
Oh, yeah.
And when you have to think of the time of this. So when she was when Rose, they called her Rose Mary to differentiate her from her mom, Rose. Okay. So when Rose was delivering Rose Mary, this was 1912 or 1914. I don't remember, but that the doctor wasn't there yet. So they didn't know what to do. The nurse wasn't feeling comfortable to deliver the baby. And the reason, and this makes sense, the nurse didn't want to do something wrong because she was a Kennedy.
Okay.
Yep, does that make sense? And then, although the nurse never said that, but that's what people gathered, why she didn't deliver the baby and why the nurse made Rose cross her legs while the baby was trying to come out and push Rose Mary's head back into the birth canal. So what? And
anesthetics were not exactly the at their best in 1912.
Yes, but you want to know something weird? Is in this era they knew about a lack of oxygen at the time and what this could possibly do.
Yeah.
Well, luckily enough, it didn't have a huge impact on. It wasn't as if she was born with. I'm trying to think. What is the thing that people get when they have lack of oxygen at birth? Not MS. Oh gosh, I can't think of it. Well, anyway, it wasn't anything like that. At first, no signs of anything being awry. No signs of developmental things. But then when she got to 2, there were a couple things. She might not have smiled as much, they said, or she didn't walk and talk like a 2-year-old should. So, okay, they thought something was going on. Also, in this era was the time of them not knowing about anything with women and having maybe depression or anxiety.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Or anything.
It was the era of, you have a baby. You should love your baby. No matter what, it's your baby. I get it.
Oh, right. But it's not even just that. That's even with so Rosemary had was also kind of like outlashed, or she had like lashings a little bit. So even as a kid, that's where she started to change. And I think that there were probably some developmental things that were going on, but she didn't know how to communicate, like how we do. Like if there is a child who might be on a level of autism or something like that.
Yeah,
okay?
sure.
So it wasn't like they had totally kicked her to the curb because of this, but it was something that they definitely noticed. Well, also around this time, lobotomies started to be performed. So how they would perform lobotomies at the time was that if, let's say, for instance, Scott, you were going to get a lobotomy, and they were going...
I've been told it might help.
And they were going to drill, and they would be drilling in like the frontal lobe of your head.
Yeah.
That they would ask that you either recite prayers or sing a song. It might be like a church song, or sing something that...
Oh my God, like the people that have brain surgery and are playing the piano when
Yes.
it happens. You hear about these stories from time to time.
Yes, that's exactly the exact same thing. Because when they were doing the drilling, and then they were trying to almost like disconnect these two pathways, and they said as soon as you would stop singing or reciting a prayer, that's when they knew, okay, we have now disconnected that path. Okay. So now we know Rosemary, by the way, who at this point she's now approaching, she's right around, I think, the age of 23. So she's already dated, had some education. I would say fairly normal, like maybe not totally normal, but pretty normal. But her with the popularity of lobotomies and drilling into somebody's brain to disconnect a connection that they thought
pathway,
was
if you will.
pathway
Yeah.
that they thought was wrong, not like, oh, she could just be depressed or she could have autism.
Yeah. They didn't know this stuff back then. Yeah.
No, not at all. And there was a guy who I don't remember his name, but there was because of course I'm like reading all this. There is the guy who is doing all of these test lobotomies and things like that. So when it came up, and Joseph Kennedy was the one that brought it to his wife, Rose, and said, I think that we should get Rosemary, we should have a lobotomy performed on her. And this is where it gets so messed up.
By the way, at that time, up until that point, since that was the practice used to deal with whatever the situation was, I could see the conversation happening,
Oh, yeah. The conversation happened, but Rose, the mom, said, I don't want to do it. I don't feel comfortable with it. I think she was saying, I don't know enough about it to do it. So then she was like, no, we're not doing it. Joseph took Rosemary and he went and had it done on her.
Oh.
They say that she didn't really know what was going on, that maybe the conversation was like, hey, I'm going to take you to the doctors, but she didn't know why she was going to the doctors.
Yeah.
And then she went to the doctors, had it performed. And then from there, she does the thing where she sings the songs and says the prayers. And from there, she lost mobility, her speech, all of those things. She didn't die. Because
that's a lot of silent resentment for your father coming.
That's a side effect. They had talked about, did she have cognitive capabilities? Well, here's what happened. She ended up after this lobotomy happened, and like I said, she lost mobility, she lost her speech. She ended up in like an assisted living home. But it sounds like none of the kids knew what happened. It's almost like, they just sent her.
This is such that era.
Yes.
You swept it under the rug in the early 1900s.
Yes, that they told the kids, I'm talking JFK, Ted Kennedy, yada, yada, yada. They told them, she went away to like school or something. They gave some BS excuse.
It's very common for that era.
So not only has she went from dating and living a pretty normal life. Besides, I guess she had some like lashing out of.
Yeah. There was something. There was obviously, this may be a stretch. I'm not a doctor. I only play one on the podcast and the radio show. Maybe she was an autistic, on the spectrum of some level, but they had no idea back then what it was.
That's what I gathered too from the description of like her little quote unquote episodes.
Yeah.
I was like, well, this doesn't sound like a big deal at all. This sounds super normal. Or maybe there was some like mental delays, but nothing that you can't work with.
Yeah, right.
So they end up sending her to this home, this assisted living home, and her mom never visited her. Nobody visited her for like 40 years.
Jeez.
Wait. So then Joseph dies. So then her mom goes to visit. So I don't know if Joseph said you're not allowed to visit.
I was going to say, what kind of control did let me tell you,
right?
the whole Kennedy family, it is very difficult. There is strewn generation after generation after generation of either tragedy or accidents, murders, cover-ups.
Yep.
That is you talk about a family that must have made some kind of deal with Satan at some point early on to carry through multiple generations. That's the only way I can think about it, because you figure, and I'll come up to it in a second, because my mom would have been, and my aunt would have been the ones that in the late 70s when I was a little kid, they would have constantly talked about the Kennedys and stuff like that.
Yes.
Like that was the Kardashians of, I'm serious. It was
a
the
great
Kardashians
analogy.
of their era.
Yes.
And I mean, okay, maybe not as, maybe the Kennedys could have been more fucked up than the Kardashians. I don't know. But it really was, there was no TV shows like that. So you read it in tabloids, you heard about it, you read articles. But it was also an era where Joseph, being the man of the house, and I give the orders. I could see where that happened. I could see that completely being the case.
Now,
you're not going to the asylum.
Before I continue, had you ever heard any of this before?
No, see, that's the thing. I want to say that when I was a kid, now I'm trying to remember some of this, but I was always fascinated by the conversations that my mom and my aunt had. Those two would talk about everything. Well-educated ladies, well in touch with society, if you will. I learned a lot of medical things, believe it or not, from the conversations they had, because it would appear that the only conversations that my mother and my aunt had, their sisters, were the medical problems. Did you hear about so-and-so? The Kennedys. This was the era.
Yes.
This is what it was. I mean, they were a ton of fun, but I did think about hearing certain things. So I know, and I'll go through, think about this with this family alone. So now we know Rose was put away for 40 years after a botched lobotomy. I may not have known that whole thing. I knew there was something with Rose Kennedy, but I'm not 100% sure.
So the thing about, did she have, was she aware?
Yeah.
So the answer, everyone thinks, is yes. And
I think so.
And here's why.
Yeah.
So Joe dies, the dad.
Yep.
Mom eventually, for the first time, visits her in this assisted living home. They say that she went crazy with elation. She was so excited. She was, and doesn't this sound really childlike too?
Yes, very much.
So they think that she really did know what was going on. Well, eventually her mobility did come back. She did do.
You're kidding.
No, she could walk, not talk though. So, but she was able to walk for short periods of time. And the word is that JFK, 40 years later, that he had found out later in his life.
Yeah.
Which
I think I heard that. I think I've heard that.
He did go, they said he did go visit his sister a couple times, but then he got in office and then he died.
Oh, yeah.
So he didn't really have the chance to get to know his sister that he probably would have. A lot of people say that he was such a kind soul that he would have visited his sister frequently if he would have known about it 40 years prior.
That's what I get. Now, again, I'm not a historian. I'm not an expert at the Kennedys, but from what I can gather from JFK, from the things that I've seen, ruthless, harsh, very skilled at the art of business and politics, if you will.
Yep.
Very much a womanizer. We know that there was something with Marilyn Monroe.
Yep.
That's where the happy birthday, that super sexy happy birthday that Marilyn Monroe sings is actually to JFK. The whole thing. So,
okay.
And there's also, and this is even crazier, there's even a connection between the Kennedys and the Rat Pack. I'm talking the Sinatras, the Dean Martins, and all that. This stuff.
So like a mob connection?
Oh, there's stuff.
Irish mafia.
I don't know how it all connects, but there are connections. Again, I'm not the historian on this, but you think about just this family. So go back to Joseph doing what he did with his
Rose,
daughter.
Mary,
Okay.
yep.
Now, mind you, the little bit of slack that I can cut on that is if it was 1912, I mean, come on, the medicine was, just in 30 years. And by the time you got to the start of World War II, you had it's huge advancements in medicine and then continued forward.
Yes.
So I can cut him the slack for doing that. I can also cut him the slack because it was a very political family. They were very involved in the community of debutantes and things like that. They were one of those families, like the Rockefellers and things like that. So you can't really have, and I don't mean this negative, in their minds, you can't have this kind of drooling, a vegetable sitting in the background.
Right. They didn't want any stain on their name.
Now, that's not me saying that. That's me describing probably what was talked about at that time in 1912, whatever. So then you go from that. All right, there's that whole thing. You get to the JFK thing. So sure, he's assassinated. There's a billion theories on how that all happened.
Oh, yeah.
Then you go to Robert, his brother, who got shot in the hotel, was also in the process of running for president. You go to Teddy, who apparently had a murder thing where he drove somebody off a pier, and then you get to, my God, why do I draw a blank? The son of JFK that his plane crashed off Long Island. If I was born a Kennedy, now mind you, I'm adopted. Look at these blue eyes. I don't have the hair that they did, but these blue eyes. For all I know, I could have been a Kennedy. And in 1971, they said, get rid of this kid. We're going to give him a fighting chance because holy shit, I'd be dead or in jail by now.
So that's funny you say that because by
the way, if I do find out I'm a Kennedy, I hope you have some money remaining in that, that fund.
Well, one of the things that was brought up was, and they had mentioned all the Kennedys' names, and I don't remember all of them, but there was one who she was the youngest. I think her name was Eunice, I think.
Oh my God, is this the one that just had the drug overdose? No.
Oh, no,
that's
no.
recent.
But she died. She lived the longest. She just died at the age of like 89 or something like that. And she was the one that no one knows about because of all the controversy. It was said that she didn't want any of that attached to her. So she stayed out of the limelight completely. Because you're right, a lot of them had a political career or something where there was controversy around them.
They couldn't have a stain.
Right. And she saw through that and she ended up living the longest.
Isn't that, wow.
I know.
Wow.
I know.
It's great. I'll tell you, this may be the closest we ever get to having one of these kind of wild discussions about like the Kennedys, because it's also a very dated family. JFK, 1963 he died.
Yeah.
So you're going back a long time.
Definitely.
But it is still one of those kind of fascinating stories. I may be wrong on this, but I think that the Kennedys were considered like our royalty here, like you have the king and queen in England.
Yes.
They were kind of compared to that.
Also, so much controversy.
Oh,
The death of Lady Di.
Yeah, and a shit ton of inbreeding. My God. West Virginia looks like a big gene pool compared to the British monarchy.
Harry getting kicked out of the family practically.
Yeah, well, good for him.
Yeah, right, exactly. So,
oddly, I'd like to meet his brother. I'd really like to meet William.
Oh, yeah. I
don't know why. I just think that,
I'd rather meet Harry.
Oh, me too. I'd rather.
But isn't that crazy? That all came from just an email suggestion I got, and I just clicked and went and ran with it.
But you fell down a rabbit hole that is interesting that I know just a teeny bit about.
Same.
I know that there was a passionate fascination with anything Kennedy of a certain generation, which would have been really even before I'm Gen X. So really would have been the boomers that would have been huge on it. But from there and before that lived it. Now, I do know, in wrapping up that Kennedy thing, I do know in the past few years, there was one of the young Kennedys, and it was very tragic, very pretty girl, died of a drug overdose.
Yeah. That's another... Put that in the controversial
it keeps
conspiracies.
Going.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
The curse. The curse.
The curse. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. A curse. Wow. Well, we started out at one place and ended up coming here. I'm going to tell you, though, it's fascinating. It's one of those things you sit there and you go, man, I mean, look where we went in 15 minutes of the podcast with a pretty vague approach, and you're going, damn, I want to know more.
I know, I do too. And I've been reading and listening to a bunch of stuff about the Kennedys, but you're right. It makes me want to dive in. I really want to dive into the one with, is it Teddy who knocked somebody off the road while he was driving?
I believe drove a girl off or knocked someone off a pier. There was a drowning in a car. The car was at the bottom of the lake. That
is, I feel like, going to be my next thing I'm going to dive into.
And you're going to come out of that going, he totally killed her. I guarantee you.
Probably.
Knowing you're going to totally go, he totally killed her. I'm not making that accusation. I don't need a lawsuit against the Kennedys, except remember, I could be that adoptive relative taking some of that inheritance.
Well,
Might want to hold that lawsuit.
I do want to say this, too, as far as Rose Mary Kennedy, is that this wasn't like a murder podcast or anything like that.
No, it's a fascinating story.
She lived out her full life.
Amazing.
I know. Totally. All right. Well, have a great week. This has been one of my favorites.
It's a lot of fun. This is a good one. You guys enjoy it. We'll see you next week.
Bye.
Well, that was fun. Wasn't that fun? That was fun. Do us a favor, will you? Subscribe. Share the Scott and Alley Not For Air podcast. Touch our buttons. We know you want to.